thank you for reaching out, Ralph, and for having me today. One of my favorite things in the world to do is teach the younger generation, and actually just wrapped a 5-month course with all of our assistants and associate managers at our company, just trying to teach them a lot of what we're going to talk about today. So always an honor to get to meet new faces. And I love that you guys are all over the world. We do so much international business, and trust me when I understand that, say I understand the time zone situation, but it's really great to see y'all's faces from everywhere. So thank you for joining. As Ralph said, I'm Caitlin Stone. I am based in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm just curious too, anybody on this call been to Nashville before? Nice. Amazing city, obviously known as Music City. And I came here about 11.5 years ago to work in the music industry. I actually, I wanted to work in sports. I love sports, all different kinds of sports. And I had a very interesting conversation with a man that was very high up in the music industry when I was 17 years old. I was on a path to go work in sports. Specifically, I wanted to work at a US network called ESPN, which I'm sure the majority of you guys have probably heard of. And as I started talking to him, he told me to stop. He said, "You're way too in love with sports, and I think you will be jaded in a year if you work in that industry. Why don't you try the music industry instead as a close second?" So fast forward, I came to Nashville to intern for a summer and kind of stayed through that next semester as I was finishing school in Alabama. And I ended up at the right place at the right time. I was at a concert here in Nashville at a very famous venue called the Ryman. And I always am a firm believer in talking to strangers and trying to make new friends. And I started talking to this gentleman, and come to find out he would be my boss and is still my boss. And just a quick friendly exchange ended up turning into not even really an interview, more or less just I like you and I'm going to hire you. So I came in to a company at that point that was called Roar, and we had a Nashville office. Obviously, we also had LA, New York, Atlanta. And I knew nothing. I had no idea what I was doing. And I just remember day one, he was like, "There's a million things going on, and sweetheart, just fake it till you make it." So that was kind of my motto for the first couple of years of my career. But what I realized quickly was that they, as in the partners of this company, I created this management company that, yes, primarily focused on managing high-level musicians, but at the same time, they were managing chefs and comedians and actors and actresses. And I just found it so fascinating that all of those areas in entertainment overlap all the time. And so to be able to, say, be a musician that's also an actor and come in and be able to be represented by the same company, I thought was just really, really special. But I probably a year or so in, was given the opportunity to go out on tour full time with, at that point, was our largest client, a band called Zac Brown Band, which are a big US band. And I don't think I would realize until many years later, and I still kind of have epiphanies about this often, that that would be where I was cutting my teeth, and that I was about to embark on 5-6 years on tour, that I would learn more than the average person could ever learn in an office, and experience that you just couldn't pay for. And we toured all around the US, a lot of international touring as well. And again, I just kind of faked it until I made it. And it was really, really interesting, and it's really powerful to start working with an act when they were selling a couple hundred tickets a night. And then when I came off tour, we were selling 150,000 tickets in a weekend at sold out stadiums. So to be able to see an artist career grow and grow that fast. I mean, we worked, I want to say 15 #1 singles at radio, and there was just endless opportunity there. Every award show you can imagine, being in the room with any celebrity you can imagine. And, you know, at the end of the day, so much was learned and absorbed during those years on tour. But, you know, all good things do come to an end. And I was really tired. I was gone probably 250 plus days a year. I lived on tour with 100 plus men. I think there was like 3 of us women. And I was just kind of worn out. And so I came to my bosses and asked if I was able to come back in-house and kind of reestablish and be what we call an in-house manager that's not gone all the time. And I was able to kind of transition into that. And, you know, fast forward to now, I still do have a music client. His name's Michael Franti, and he's absolutely incredible. And I, as of the top of this year, am now head of activism for us as well. So I would say 50% of my day is spent working in the music world, whether I'm booking tours or I'm helping set up to release records or singles or doing digital campaigns. We are working on a clothing line right now with one of my music clients. Every day is so different. And then on the activism front, we wanted to be able to support our current roster and any of their activism needs. But we also wanted to be able to bring in new activists. And, I was telling Raph before you guys got on, I'm just so proud to see y'all's generation and how you're standing up and you're finding things that you're really passionate about and you're going out and you're fighting for them, or you're at least speaking and becoming educated on them to be able to educate others around you. And so when we developed this activism department, I was so excited, but I was also like a little nervous. I mean, this is a big deal. There's no other activism departments really in the entertainment industry, or there definitely wasn't when we started this a couple of years ago. And I took great pride in trying to figure out, what does it mean to be head of activism? And as you guys can see, there's so many things going on in the world right now. I do really try to stay up to speed, of course, with what's going on in the US, but just as equally what's going on anywhere else on the planet. And I started realizing like it was very overwhelming to try to keep up with all of the different movements. And of course, there's no way that I can ever keep up with all of them. But I quickly realized that so much of being an activist and or being head of activism was about educating myself on the different movements and the things that were going on. And I also am a co-chair for our 501c3, the Activist Foundation, which we started recently. And I also head up our fellowship program, which is part of our activist roster, which we were so excited about. We actually just announced recently. And what that entails is we as a company find one activist every 2 years that we fully believe in, and we want to give them all of our resources. And so right now our fellow is this wonderful woman named Nazarene, and Nazarene is a former child slave labor survivor from Nepal. She grew up in the sweatshops. She is undocumented. She doesn't even know her legal last name or what her legal last name would have been when she was born. She had created 2 beautiful businesses on her own. She came to the US a couple of years ago, didn't even know how to write her name. And now she is a public speaker all over the world and a women's empowerment leader. And so our whole theory was, what if we take someone like Nazarene that has built this story, but yet has not had any real consistent resources, and we give her the best team in the entertainment industry. And I don't know who on this call is familiar with one of the greatest bands of all time, the Grateful Dead, but they're one of our clients, and we gave Nazarene the Grateful Dead team, their attorney, their business manager, their managers, their publicists. And we all offer our services for free. And we figure out, how can we help connect the dots to expand these people's visions and missions. And so that's a little bit about the fellowship program, which I spend a lot of time on. But, and lastly, I am also a newly certified life and health coach, which was something I wanted to take on personally. And thankfully, my company supported that and actually funded the bill for it, which is really nice when you find people to work for that really want to invest in further education. It's always really special. And I think, on a daily basis, so much of what a day-to-day manager does in the music industry is 1 minute I'm playing their manager, their assistant, their psychiatrist. I mean, you name it, there's so many things. So to be able to have those accolades in life and health coaching is definitely really paid off and has helped me. So I think, going kind of transitioning into activism and, what that is defined as. A lot of people ask me, what does it even mean to be an activist? Like, do I have to be out marching in the streets all the time? Do I have to, be fighting tooth and nail for a certain cause? And the answer is you can be, but that's not the way that I personally define activism. I mean, I think simply put, it's just somebody who wants to campaign for social change. And there's so many different outlets right now. I mean, of course, whether you're fighting for the betterment of the planet, sustainable fashion, Black Lives Matter movement, I mean, like the list goes on and on and on. But I think, for young activists and or people that might not even realize really what activism is, I always encourage them to find out one or two or three things that you really are interested in. And perhaps you know very little about them right now, but write those things down and then do your own research. There's so many people out there that jump on the bandwagon to support a cause, maybe because their friends are, maybe because their parents told them to, but they don't do their own research. And so you're really then supporting that person's cause and not necessarily the real cause. And so one thing we always really teach is figure out what it is that you love to do and or things that you want to speak out about or things that you want to protect in this world. Go out and do your own homework. We have access to the internet. Actually, my boyfriend and I were talking the other day. We are the last generation that actually lived without the internet at some point in our lives, which is crazy to think. But you have endless opportunities to go out and just search for those resources and then find a group of people, even if it's just 2 or 3 other people that also like what you're interested in, because there's really something to be said about accountability and about being able to research things together and to build movements together. I mean, if you see the majority of the largest movements that we see worldwide were started by a small group of people, 1, 2, 3 people gathering around one idea and deciding to take action. So I think that's obviously one of the most important things is continuing that education piece throughout. And Ralph, I'll stop there for just a second if there's anything that you want me to touch on further.
You're fine. We have a few questions from the students, and we'll get to that in a second. Can you kind of clarify for the kids, like when you were going to school, was there any like emphasis that you were studying to get this career path that you have?
Great question. Yes and no. I mean, I am a psychology major. I also minored in communications and management. So of course there were some things that I was learning. I would say more than anything, I'm careful to say that we do act as our clients, psychologists and psychiatrists the majority of the time. I never want to say that because I did not go to school all the way through to be a certified psychiatrist, but that part of my degree definitely came into play. And I think too, on the communication side, I always kind of describe my day-to-day job as a music manager as being the goalie, and my client standing in the goal behind me. I'm the goalie, and it's my job to stop every single thing that's coming our way. And there's balls just flying all day, every day, whether it's the label calling and saying they need something, or the radio team, or the publicist, or the publisher, the merch company, the tour manager, like all day there's 30 balls that are coming at you at all times, and people need that. And it's my job to stop all of that and to collect all the facts and then figure out psychologically, how does my client receive information and in what best form? And then from there, I answer what I can, and then whatever I need to turn around and take to them, I do, but I always do it in a manner that is easiest for them to receive. And I think that psychology degree definitely helped in me learning to understand humans better. I've been fascinated with just the inner workings of the human brain and how we react to things because of our upbringing or trauma that we've endured, or our belief system, our parents' belief system. There's just so many things that definitely I pull from those degrees from time to time. And I think over time, it's really evolved into much more than just that. I mean, I think going out and obtaining a college degree is very, very important. I know that the majority of people, of course, in the US do have the option to, but it's really hard for a lot of people to figure out how to go that path. But I do think that there's other resources out there if that is not an opportunity for somebody else.
Great advice. We have a question from Mev in Italy. Mev, you should be able to unmute yourself. Go ahead and ask.
Hi, Kathleen. Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you, dear.
Thanks. I would like to know from you, how do you approach your speech when you have to share your idea about something with people who don't think like you do?
That's such an interesting question and a great one. And, it's challenging, but I think I really, I've taught myself I've really worked to teach myself more and more about empathy and understanding that like there's so many different opinions out there. I mean, like, look, I'll take it to a personal example, even like we're dealing with this crazy election right now, as I'm sure you guys all know. And I'm always really curious to hear what people think about the US and things like this outside of the country. I have very interesting conversations with Uber drivers when I land down in a country outside of the US. But I, during this election, don't see eye to eye with my own family on what's happening here. And so I think I have to navigate those conversations daily. And it's really, really tricky because sometimes you want to just stand up, be the activist, defend what you believe in, throw out all these statistics and all this stuff. But you really have to look at long-term and how that could potentially be damaging to a relationship. And I think it's also equally important that if I know that I'm going into a conversation with someone that sees things differently than me or is on a completely different side of a very important social justice or social issue, I'll always start by saying, help me understand why you believe what you believe. Therefore, I'm not saying that it's wrong. If I want to educate myself, I need to understand both sides at all times. And I really try to just lead with empathy and understanding that somebody might show up to the table with an idea or a belief, and it might have come just because their parents told them to, or because they were raised in a society where that was the norm. And so I try to dig deeper in understanding, why do you feel this way about this? And is it because it's tied to something deeper? And the majority of the time people can't even answer, or they answer like, oh, because I read it online, or, oh, because somebody told me to. And that's why I think it's so important for people to do their own research and come up with their own opinions about things. If not, then what if we heard from our parents or somebody else important in our life, and then it's something that's creating this generational cycle that now we're carrying the cycle on, and we're not breaking the cycle that we should be breaking because we didn't research or ask the right questions. So empathy, asking questions, and like not being afraid to, if somebody says something that potentially you don't agree with, or you have an idea that might clash with them, asking their permission if you are willing to share that. Because I think sometimes we just give our opinions to people and or give our ideas without asking first if they're willing to receive it, and receive it in a way that they're respecting you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was very well put. And, emphasizing about sympathy and empathy, and that's a very important tool to be used nowadays, especially with everything going on. We have Ludovica, and Ludovica, you are unmuted. Go ahead. You had a pretty good question.
Thank you so much for being here. I wanted to ask you how the music industry and activism intertwine.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so much of it has to do obviously with the client, but I will use one of our clients, Michael Franti, as a great example. He writes about social justice issues in his songs. He's constantly, he tries to have this even balance of making sure that he's serving the fans the music they want, but making sure that we're talking about important topics within that. And I've seen a lot lately of specifically to high level musicians speaking out about what's going on in the world. And a lot of people say like, just stick to music. Like, we don't want to hear that. Like, you're not a politician, or, you're not X, Y, and Z. And I look at those posts and I'm sad, because I think that as musicians and people that travel all over the world and see all different walks of life, if they're willing to even just look literally off the front of the stage, and they're constantly talking to people from different viewpoints and parts of the world, that I think if anything, like a lot of them do have very interesting perspectives, and perspectives that we wouldn't have because we're not out seeing the same things that they're seeing. And I find thankfully on our roster that almost every single day I'm seeing it intertwine in some form or fashion, like whether our music clients are stepping out to do these marches or to coordinate an event around a social justice issue. Now, it doesn't happen that way at a lot of other companies, but that's something that we really try to always connect the dots on. And thankfully, we have a beautiful roster that allows us to do that.
That's a good answer. We have one final student question before we let you go. This is Judy. She's from Italy. Judy, you should be able to unmute. Go ahead and ask your question, friend.
Hi, Miss Stone.
Hello.
I just want to ask you, how do you feel at the end of the day?
As a whole in life, about activism, anything specific?
I think she just means in your career, like professionally, like is it fulfilling? Like, because some people, they just have a job and they just go to it and come home and like that's it.
That's so true. I'm so fortunate that I'm not one of those people. I mean, I will tell you guys, working in the entertainment industry, I always tell everybody it's a lifestyle. It's not a job. I choose this lifestyle though. And even though it's grueling and I work a lot of long hours, for me, it is, it's impactful work. I can see, when I first started working in the industry, the three things that I wanted was, I didn't want to go to work before 9 a.m. I'm a night owl. I don't like to get up early in the morning. And thank God in the entertainment industry, that's not the case. You don't have to be there at 6 a.m. I wanted a lot of positive reinforcement. I knew you know, I'm always trying to study myself and understand why I'm wired the way that I am. And I knew going into my first career that I needed to be surrounded by a team that would let me know that I was doing a good job and would let me know that I was on the right path. And personally, that was just super important. And I also really wanted instant gratification. I love to be able to check something off the list and to do that 10, 15, 20 times a day. And I love to see projects come to fruition quicker. And so there were a number of careers that you go into and maybe you're planting a seed and not seeing something sprout for a year or longer. And so I knew that that definitely wasn't for me. And I think for you guys, it's important to figure out like, what are those few things as you venture into your next job or part-time, full-time, or as you guys go out into the world in the upcoming years, like what are those things that are super important? So then at the end of the day, you can say, man, some days are hard, not gonna lie, but that my work is fulfilling and it's impactful and that it's reaching people. And sometimes people feel like their work has to reach millions. But for me, I find that the most impactful work is when I can just work one-on-one with somebody and can see that growth in them. And that's why I love the coaching side. So I would say, honestly, most days I wake up, I'm positive, I'm happy, I'm ready to go. And I go to bed feeling super fulfilled that I get to work with the clients that I do, that I am given space in my day and time in my day to work on educating myself more. I mean, I read about 40 publications a day and skim through articles trying to learn more about what's going on in the world and what people are achieving, what people are suffering from. And I do think, you know, there will be times that we find ourselves in jobs or positions that we just really, really, really don't like. But you got to step back and say, is this a place that I can grow in? And this is just me holding myself back? Or am I not being appreciated? And I think so many people stay in positions where they're not appreciated. And I think that's so unfortunate. But we really control our energy. And, you know, one of my clients always says that you change your thoughts, you can change your feelings. And the days that I feel like it's really hard, or that I might not go to bed and feel like I achieved what I wanted to that day, I immediately try to change my thoughts. Like, you gave back to somebody today, you connected the dots on this, you know, you were able to impact this person's life. Or if I haven't been able to do that yet in the day, I just pick up the phone and figure out how to make it happen before I have to lay my head down. So finding things that you love is so important though, y'all. It really is, because people always say this life is super short, and you wake up and, I mean, I was y'all's age, it feels like yesterday. So it just comes down to like really trying to make an impact every single day on something small.
That is such great advice about following passions, and we've had thousands of guest speakers, and that seems to be the one ongoing message. Always follow your passions, do what makes you happy. First of all, thank you for doing this. This was absolutely great, and I know the kids all appreciate it. Before I end the meeting for all, I'm going to go ahead and unmute all so we can all say thank you to Caitlin for spending her part of her day with us. So can we all say thank you to Caitlin? You guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.